And a very good Wednesday evening to you. Welcome to News First Primetime News live on TV1. I'm your anchor tonight, Shahin Durampati, and these are your headlines.
Power cuts to end from tonight. Subject Minister assures that electricity bills would not increase. Relief to be provided to small and medium enterprises. A request to reduce policy interest rates. Water leak in Umaoya. Wastage 520 litres per second. Indian general election begins tomorrow.
Well, now for those stories in detail. Minister of Power and Energy and Business Development Ravi Karunanayake assures that there will be no power cuts from tonight.
I have given a word to implement it. It is not a lie. We have acted according to a plan while resolving the issue. I have not made this statement because of the vacation. We said that there will be no power cuts from midnight today, which means from tomorrow morning.
When
I assumed duties, I said that the domestic prices will not increase. I won't change unless we reduce it. The Cabinet has granted approval to purchase additional power of 100 megawatts to ensure the uninterrupted supply of power. Accordingly, 34 megawatts of power will be purchased from the Pallekele and Gaul grid substations from Agrico International Project Limited at a cost of 30 rupees and 20 cents per kilowatt. Cabinet approval has been granted to purchase 10 megawatts for the Mahayangane grid substation at a cost of 30 rupees and 58 cents per kilowatt and 8 megawatts for the Polonnaru grid substation at a cost of 30 rupees and 63 cents from Altaka Alternative Solutions Company Limited. 24 megawatts will be purchased from T-Power at a cost of 28 rupees and 43 cents for the Hambantota substation. T-Power will also provide 24 megawatts to Horana grid substation at a cost of 28 rupees and 70 cents. Meanwhile, Cabinet approval is also granted to appoint a committee headed by Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe to present short, medium and long-term recommendations for an uninterrupted supply of power. The committee comprises of Mangala Samarveera, Ravi Karunanayake, Kabir Hashim and Sagala Ratnayake. What's left to do is providing a permanent solution to this by generating power at a lower cost without burdening the general public. A solution was given at the Cabinet meeting in the presence of President and the Prime Minister 2 days ago. It is to construct 6 to 7 new thermal power plants. It will begin before the 30th of June 2019. This program will also include the construction of a number of coal and solar power plants.
This evening on our special report, I'm going to ask you a question and then explain as to why I'm asking you that question as well. Have you heard of a situation where a tender has been awarded to 2 companies for the same project to be carried out in the same vicinity, in the same location? Have you heard of a situation like that? I'm going to explain this cabinet paper that you see behind me. This is a cabinet paper that has been put forward by the Minister of Power and Energy and Business Development. You heard him speaking a short while ago, Minister Ravi Karunanayake, with regard to the long-term and mid-term plans to overcome this power crisis issue that we are facing currently in the country. Now, if you take a look at the proposals that have been made for cabinet approval, several projects have been listed out here. Some can even question as to whether this could result in excess power in the country as well. But however, the problem gets clear in this location where it has proposed a 300 megawatt power plant in Kerolapitiya and another 300 megawatt power plant in Kerolapitiya. Now, we remember in the past that when this tender was awarded, this tender was marred with controversy when one company who did not receive the tender went and decided to take legal action as well. I beg your pardon. Now, after this has happened, we now see that this has been given to 2 companies to do the same project, 2 different projects. Now, I'm going to draw your attention to an article that has been published on Economy Next as well. Sri Lanka decision for 2 300 megawatt IPPs in one tender was bipartisan, says Minister Ravi Karunanayake. If you read this article through, a decision to award 300 megawatt power plant to the first and second bidder in a single tender for an independent power producer was bipartisan. They are of course quoting the Minister of Power and Energy. Sri Lanka called for bids for a dual fuel 300 megawatt power plant in 2016, but the tender had been marred in controversy and corruption allegations. Now that is a story that I explained to you, where one company decided to go and take legal action against the company that received the tender, and it was a huge mess. Now what has happened is that two companies, the two bidders, had been awarded the same contract. We come to this particular tweet sent out by a non-cabinet minister of the government itself, Dr. Harsha De Silva. What does he have to say? I am completely against handing out two contracts on one tender, bipartisan or otherwise. Now better take and lower prices, Batagoda. A plea to Suren Batagoda, Secretary to the Ministry of Power and Energy. President Maithripala Sirisena should appoint commission to investigate entire power sector. It is reeking of corruption. Now, this is not what we are saying. This is being said by a minister, a non-cabinet minister of our government, the present government, Dr. Harsha De Silva. Now comes to the question that I asked you initially. If there is a situation where a tender is being given to two companies to carry out the same project, same specs into the same location, as a result, giving us two of the same thing, is this a situation where one would see commissions flowing if one person is, for example, giving 10 rupees out of this project that is being carried out, and if the second lowest bidder is granting 12 rupees, is this a bid to take the 2 rupees and also another amount from the second bidder as well, making both these bidders happy at the end of the day? Is this a situation to make sure that everyone who is involved in this situation, in this particular scenario when it comes to the power and energy in our country, be it from the former government, be it from the current government, is this a bid to make everyone happy? The second question that I have for you today. Up to you. We report, you decide.
Well, thank you very much, Chaturanga. Well, still remaining on the subject, following an event in Norwood, Governor of the Central Province, Maitri Gunaratne, spoke about the reasons for the prevailing power crisis in the country.
I foresaw these power outages since a long time ago. When this government came into power, I was made the chairman of the Lanka Coal Company. It was when I was functioning as the chairman that I realized that Batagoda was a thief. Batagoda is a rogue who is a secretary to a ministry. These power outages were planned by Batagoda back in 2015. I know firsthand that plans were in motion to construct a coal power plant in Sampur. What did Batagoda do? He went to the Supreme Court and promised that it will not be constructed. As a result, the construction was halted, and to this day, it is halted. Batagoda's aim is to obtain power created through generators. What happens when you purchase power created through generators? You can buy a unit for 40 to 45 rupees. What happens then is everyone in that ministry, including Batagoda, become millionaires. The people are in the dark and their incomes are affected, but people like Batagoda and the rest of the officials at the ministry enjoy benefits.
ජනතාව කරුවලේ ජනතාවගේ ආදායමට වදිනවා. නමුත් බටගොඩලගේ ආදායම් ඒ නිලධාරීන්ලගේ ආදායම් තව තවත් වැඩි වෙන එක තමයි සිද්ධ වෙන්නේ.
Well, no proper solution has been found yet for the water leak that took place during the excavations of the Uma Oya project. News First once again looked into the latest developments surrounding the matter. The main tunnel of the Uma Oya multipurpose development project is 15.2 kilometers in length. Around 1.8 kilometers of excavation still remains to be done to connect the main tunnel to the tank. The first leak in this tunnel between Puhulpola and Karandagolla was recorded in December 2015. As there were difficulties in removing the excavation equipment from the tunnel, the project was continued. Efforts taken to minimize the leakage with the help of German experts also proved futile. While this leak has been taking place for about 3 years, the project director has announced that the leak is occurring at a rate of about 800 litres per minute. In such a situation, residents are now facing grave difficulties.
This is the well from which we drank. Does anyone do this to a well in Sri Lanka? The Uma Oya project is the reason for this.
How are they to celebrate Aurudu? They don't even have a cooker to cook. I live on rent.
This Uma Oya project has destroyed our homes. Even the paddy fields have been destroyed.
Even though projects have been started in Ambadande Gama, Makullalla and Halialla to solve the water issue, these projects are still at an early stage. While 92% of the total project has been completed, the work pertaining to the underground power generation plant has been completed. State Minister Ajith Mannapperama, who went on an inspection tour of this project, expressed these views to the media. When we discuss the issue of electricity, we see that usually power is bought at around 28 to 30 rupees a kilowatt. But here we have the possibility of producing a kilowatt at 3.5 to 4 rupees. By August, we plan to add 123 megawatts to the national grid. An academic volume on the 1815 Kandyan Convention and the Mahavihara was launched at the Malwatu temple recently. The event was held under the auspices of Most Venerable Tibbutawave Sri Sumangala Thero, the chief prelate of the Malwatu chapter. The Anunayaka Theros of the Malwatu and Askiri chapters, together with the Mahasangha, were present at the event. The academic volume has been compiled by a number of intellectuals. It contains several historic documents pertaining to the 1815 Kandyan Convention as well. Also making headlines this evening, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe today announced that there will be a 2% reduction in the interest rates granted to SMEs.
Following discussions between the Prime Minister and small and medium-scale entrepreneurs and businessmen, a special committee was appointed to address the prevailing high banking interest rates in the country. The committee is chaired by appointed member of the Monetary Board of the Central Bank, Nihal Fonseca, and comprises of Deputy Governor of the CBSL, H.A. Karunaratne, the President of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka, Jagat Pereira, and its Vice President, Manil Jayasinghe. In addition, the Chief Executive Officer of DFCC Bank, Lakshman Silva, the CEO of Hatton National Bank, Jonathan Allas, and the CFO of Commercial Bank, Nandika Buddhipala, are also members of this committee.
The private sector made it known that especially the SME sector, that lending rates are very high and access to credit is difficult since the banks are reluctant to provide for TODs. TODs actually have become the basis of capital of some of our smaller enterprises. The members of the Monetary Board, the CEOs, representatives of Chartered Accountants, as well officials of the Ministry of Finance, of Economic Affairs, my secretary and Mr. Malik Samarikram, we had a meeting and we've decided to implement a report given by representatives, some of the representatives representing Monetary Board, the Institute and the bank. So we decided that we want to bring the lending rate down initially, the real interest rates down by 200 basic points. We will impose a deposit rate interest caps on banks and revise the basis for determining the existing caps on finance companies.
The interest rates paid on borrowings will be based on the interest rates paid for deposits. Sri Lanka has the highest real interest rate in this region. Real interest rate is the interest rate after considering inflation. Inflation was at its peak and had increased to approximately 6% during the provincial council elections. At present, inflation has reduced to 4%. As per central bank reports, banks charge an interest rate of 14.5% from their most frequent dealers. If inflation has reduced to 4 or 5%, a high real interest rate will be charged. The report states that the complete interest rate structure can be lowered. The first recommendation of this report says that we must reconsider the interest rate paid on deposits. There is a policy to charge 8% as interest when a bank deposits funds in the central bank and to charge an interest of 9% when a bank borrows funds from the central bank. The report submitted by the committee states that 0.5% must be reduced when a bank pays interest on deposits or to pay the same interest rate offered by other financial institutions that accepts deposits. When long-term deposits are made, for example, if funds are deposited for a period of 1 year, 1% should be added to the current treasury bills of the central bank. If it is a non-banking institution, to add 2.25%. If the government is to reduce interest rates, the complete interest rate structure must be reduced. However, the issue here is that this interest rate structure is not coming down. We hope that these recommendations will help the interest rate structure to come down by more than 1%.
අපි හිතමු 100%කට වඩා ප්‍රමාණයකින් මේ වෙනස් කිරීම හරහා පල්ලෙහාට එන්න පල්ලෙහාට ඒවි.
It is reported an international aviation consultancy firm that provided its services to Sri Lankan Airlines is prepared to file a case against the national carrier over the failure to make payments for services it provided. After the present government was elected, a committee was formed to restructure Sri Lankan Airlines into a public-private partnership. The chairman of the National Agency for Public-Private Partnership, Thilan Wijayasinghe, and Secretary to the Treasury were members of this committee. A UK-based company, Nairaz, was selected to be the consultancy firm for the committee. We clearly say that these cases are filed against national carrier as a result of the unsuccessful decisions made by the Committee of Economic Management, chaired by the Prime Minister. We further point out to the government that Sri Lankan Airlines is not bound to pay this compensation. The conspirators who accepted the contract should pay this. The third round of discussions on forming a new alliance between the Sri Lanka Freedom Party and Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna was held today.
The meeting, which was held at the office of the opposition leader, ended without a final agreement. The two parties will again meet on the 9th of May. No, we have not reached into a final decision about forming an alliance. Discussions are underway in this regard. We are questioned by members of our party the practicality of forming an anti-UNP alliance when a certain group wasn't even ready to vote against the UNP budget proposal. They keep raising the questions whenever it is possible. You will know the value of the decision made and with whom the confidence and trust was built in a few days. The chairman of our party is the president. He has 3 expenditure heads. It was a group decision. We didn't want to support the UNP and we didn't want to oppose the expenditure heads of President Maithripala Sirisena. So we carefully studied the situation and reached the best possible decision. If it is a UNP against wide alliance that we are trying to form, the country must know the fake opposition towards the UNP. For an example, let's change the joint authority at the local government institutions we established with the UNP. But we have not received an answer yet. As the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, our hope is to take steps to win the provincial council elections while joining with all parties that respect democracy.
These are several political views that are being expressed regarding the time frame of the presidential election.
The Supreme Court has solved the issue as to whether the presidency is 5 years or 6 years. He has 5. The problem, however, is as to when that 5 years begins. We are of the opinion that the presidential election should be held after the 21st of June 2020 if you start counting the 5 years from the 21st of June 2015. UPFA parliamentarian Vasudeva Nanayakkara also said that a general election can be expected if the tenure of the president does not end in November. However, the chairman of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna raised a different argument.
දැන් අතිගරු ජනාධිපතිතුමා ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථාවේ 129 වන වගන්තිය යටතේ දැනට
The President, according to clause 129 of the Constitution, made an inquiry on that. The unanimous decision of a 5-judge bench was that the time frame was 5 years. Now they are attempting to present a question, if not for 6 years, can he at least stay for 5.5? We do not believe that these things are taking place according to the wants of President Maithripala. These things are done by people who are around him for their own benefits. The legality is clear. According to the 19th Amendment, he cannot hold the post till June 2020.
This is, to put simply, a farce. Meanwhile, attorney-at-law Lal Wijanayaka, who was a member of the committee to seek public opinion regarding compiling of a new constitution, expressed these views.
It is very clearly stated that the tenure begins on the day that results are declared, so this argument will not work. It is very clear in the Constitution. The clause 30.2 is on the Constitution. It states that the tenure is 5 years from the day the results were declared.
And these are the views expressed by UPFA parliamentarian Ramesh Patirana on the presidential candidacy.
We will put forward a good candidate who will definitely win the presidential bid. You know who he is. With the blessings of Mahinda Rajapaksa, Gotabaya Rajapaksa has already left to recuse his residency in order to compete for the presidential election. The present government is trembling with fear because of this.
During a media briefing convened by the opposition today, UPFA parliamentarian Shehan Semasinghe expressed the following views regarding former Secretary of Defence Gotabaya Rajapaksa.
Gotabaya Rajapaksa will arrive in the country within the next few days. A serious concern over the safety of Gotabaya Rajapaksa has now risen. The Deputy Solicitor General revealed recently that the investigations conducted regarding Nalaka Silva confirmed that there was a conspiracy to murder the President and Gotabaya Rajapaksa. The inside story in this regard was exposed through the media yesterday. A plan to destroy evidence was exposed. At present, underworld leaders are being deported to Sri Lanka. So we urge the government to strengthen Gotabaya Rajapaksa's security.
The 185th model village built under the Samata Sevana model village scheme was vested with the public earlier today. The houses were handed over by the Deputy Leader of the United National Party, Minister Sajith Premadasa.
The village, built in Mandalkuda in Kalpitiya in the Puttalam district, has been named Milad un Nabi Gama. The village consists of 26 houses. Eyeglasses were distributed in line with the event, while housing loans were also granted for low-income households. Land deeds were also presented at the event.
Those against us have already packed their bags. For what you ask? To go to Temple Trees, to rush to the presidential palace. These people who are stuffing their bags have no concern over the problems of the people. The people of this country are only a vehicle. They don't care about their issues. I say to you that we need not watch for too long. It is not long before we make moves to not just cause an evolution in the politics of this country, but a revolution. One where the small man in this country will be given a priority.
An international symposium organized by the Asia Pacific Alliance for Disaster Management, or APAD, was held in Colombo today.
This year's international symposium was held under the theme Partnerships, a Catalyst in Saving Lives and Businesses. The event, which was attended by many significant dignitaries such as the Japanese ambassador to Sri Lanka, Akira Sugiyama, commander of the Sri Lanka Navy, Vice Admiral Pial De Silva, and the chairman of APAD, Faisal Jalal. Group Director of the Capital Maharaja Organization, Shevan Daniel, was also present at the occasion as a panelist of the forum.
Robust, resilient infrastructure and good governance are a government's commitment to sustainable development. In order to reduce disaster damage and be resilient, there must be a close combination of 1. Self-help efforts rooted in the awareness of people and companies, mutual help efforts of various community-based organizations, and thirdly, public help efforts made by the national and local governments.
Among the disaster-prone countries in Asian continent, Sri Lanka is also in forefront. Sri Lanka Navy Diving Unit engaged in flood relief duties and other calamities, responding to save lives, provide relief and recovery along with other naval personnel. In the context of disaster relief, SLN is not only limited to extend her services only to Sri Lanka but to the regional countries. Hence, it is evident that disasters have a direct impact on sustainable development and countries' debt rate.
Another subject of today's symposium, robust infrastructure and business resilience, is also vital for ensuring the continuity of the economy and social functions of the country. Mitigating the vulnerability for this country is one of the priority areas of Japan's Official Development Assistance, ODA, to Sri Lanka. Currently, Japan extends ODA for implementing projects like landslide disaster protection of national roads and establishment of a Doppler weather radar network.
Several panel discussions focused on forging bonds in saving lives, and ambitious coalitions disrupt industry norms for sustainable development were held during this forum.
The Cabinet has approved the proposal presented by Minister of Telecommunication, Foreign Employment and Sports, Harin Fernando, to make necessary amendments to update the Sports Act No. 25 of 1973.
The Sports Act, which provides guidelines for the development of the sports industry, was previously updated in 1993, 1998 and 2005. Accordingly, the latest amendments include 1. The approval to audit the annual financial accounts of national sports associations through an accepted method recommended by the Auditor General. 2. A comprehensive definition of the powers vested in the subject minister to make orders under the Sports Act. 3. The increase in penalty fees charged under the Sports Act and the formulation of rules and regulations to include 2 sportsmen-women who have gained international recognition in track or field events or who have participated in the Olympics or an equivalent international sports competition to the National Sports Council. 4. Further strengthening of the power of instituting legal action against those who commit wrongs under the Sports Act.
Well, we leave you tonight with the first ever images of a black hole revealed to the world by the Event Horizon Telescope a short while ago. I'm Shanjay Rampati. Good night and take care.